In England and Wales during 2006, fire and rescue services attended over 26,000 fires in non-domestic buildings. These fires killed 37 people and injured more than 1,500. The cost as a consequence of fire, including damaged property, lost business and human casualties, were estimated at £2.5 billion. Good management of fire safety ensures that fires are unlikely to occur, or if they do occur, are controlled or contained, and everyone is able to evacuate the workplace to a place of total safety quickly. An understanding and awareness of fire safety is crucial, as fires have the potential to injure or kill large numbers of people quickly. Our first priority is to do all we can to prevent a fire starting. And you will play an important part in this aim. This DVD covers how a fire starts, fire prevention and the importance of good housekeeping, fire emergency procedure and false alarms, and the reporting of fire hazards and dangers. There will be a short written exercise at the end to check your understanding. For a fire to start, 3 things are required: a source of ignition, fuel, and oxygen. If any of these are missing, a fire cannot start. Taking measures to avoid the 3 coming together will therefore reduce the likelihood of a fire starting. The most common sources of ignition in a vehicle workshop are faulty or misused electrical equipment, naked flames, space heaters, welding equipment, gas and electrical, sparks from battery charging, or grinding. The most common sources of fuel are flammable liquids such as petrol, diesel, degreasing solvents or oil, flammable gases such as acetylene or hydrogen gas from overcharging batteries, paint and thinners, aerosol cans, waste packaging materials such as cardboard or plastics, vehicle upholstery and sound deadening materials. Oxygen is in the air we breathe, so it's everywhere. Pure oxygen may also be stored in compressed gas cylinders. So as you can see, there are plenty of potential opportunities for a fire to start in a vehicle repair workshop. Your job is to be aware of these ignition sources and fuels and make sure you do everything possible to keep them apart. Fire prevention, supported by good housekeeping, is the key to effective fire safety management in any business. But in practice, what does this actually mean? And what part do you play in all of this? In the previous section, we listed the sources of ignition and fuels commonly found in a vehicle workshop. So the first step is to ensure, where possible, sources of fuel are kept well away from sources of ignition. Next, we must reduce the sources of ignition, so for electrical equipment, this would mean ensuring that it is checked and maintained regularly, making sure trailing leads and extension reels are not overloaded. Always disconnect the vehicle's battery when working on the fuel system. Avoid using naked flames where possible. If you need to heat up something with a naked flame, always place foam or dry powder extinguishers close to the area where you are carrying out this type of work. With sources of fuels, the key is to ensure we keep the quantities of potential fuels down to a minimum and make sure they are stored appropriately. So, For example, highly flammable liquids or aerosols should be stored in a steel cupboard. If possible, store the bulk quantity outside in a locked building and only keep a sufficient quantity inside to last a few days. If you need to remove fuel from a vehicle's tank, make sure the area is well ventilated. If this operation can be carried out outside, so much the better. As a precautionary measure, always place foam or dry powder extinguishers close to the area you are carrying out this type of work. Always use a fuel retriever, and remember that petrol vapour is invisible and heavier than air, and even a small spill can disperse over a considerable area. Always disconnect the car's battery before starting and make sure you use the earth strap and follow the manufacturer's instructions regarding vapour recovery. Make sure the retriever is taken outside and emptied into a designated container straight away. Don't leave it in the workshop for any longer than necessary. If you use oxyacetylene equipment, it should be stored outside in a locked cage and only brought inside when needed. An inspection regime should be in place to ensure safety critical parts such as hoses, connections, gauges, etc. are regularly checked for signs of damage or potential signs of leaks. Last thing, before leaving the workshop at the end of the day, you should store away all aerosols, brake cleaner containers and flammable chemicals. Make sure any bins have been emptied of waste materials and ensure all electrical equipment is switched off and isolated at the wall socket. By carrying out these simple common sense actions, you will significantly reduce the likelihood of a fire starting, or if one did start, by slowing down the speed at which it could spread.